Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers as we get set with a very busy week. NFL, 3 games Thursday, and then you have college basketball all week, all of the holiday tournaments. So a lot to keep an eye on with that. College football, very busy week as well. And this will be our only show of the week. And we'll be off tomorrow through Friday. I'll be out of town, and then I'll be back again next Monday with the Daily Insider. But we'll talk with Dave Sharapan coming up in just a moment with our Mondays with Dave. I just coined that out of nowhere. But let's get to, before we get to Dave, want to tell you about BetMGM. They're the king of sports books, and a great deal now for new players only. Bet $10 to win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. That's right, bet on any NFL money line. And if your team scores a touchdown, you'll receive an additional $200 in free bets. Again, new players only, must be 21 years or older to play, and also legal in the following states: Arizona, New Jersey, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C. Only. Full terms and conditions apply. That's BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. All right, so let's get right to it. Let's get to our man. His name is Dave Sharapan. Dave, I like the hat. Your favorite Denver Nugget from that era of the 80s at McNichols Sports Arena?
You hit me with the Bill Hanslick call. That was such a good call. I was like, oh, my God, I forgot about that guy. It was either Alex English or Fat Lever for me. I mean, they always had the ball in their hands and they scored. So it was one of those guys. But like Kiki Vandaway, the uniform was so cool. And I saw this hat, wore it that day, and you put the Bill Hanslick in my head. I said, well, it ain't a football hat, but I'm wearing it when I talk to you on Monday. So I had to break it out. How about you? Did you have a favorite Denver Nugget from that era?
I would say, I'd say like a Fat Lever is a good one.
Yeah.
You know, just because the nickname. I'll give you another one, too, more of a late 80s. Michael Adams, Mighty Mouse.
Oh, yeah. As another guy. BC guy, right?
He had that weird jump shot that like.
Yeah.
He had a very weird jump shot, but I put him in there. I'll tell you something, too. Before you had Tom Thibodeau and Buzz Williams losing their voice before the first week of the season, it was Doug Moe. He was the first one. Just yelling. He had no voice.
Classic. He was a classic coach. That's what I mean. There's so many memories of that stuff. It just felt like between the emblems, the uniforms, and then the personalities, I mean, they're ingrained in our head. That was a long time ago, K-Raj, and we're talking about it like it was like yesterday. It's great.
No, I love those uniforms. It was like arcade Tetris-y type uniforms.
Yes.
And look, it was cool, and they went away from it for a while, and then now they've kind of brought it back. They need to bring it back a little bit more, I think, the Nuggets. All right, let's get to Week 11 of the NFL. So much to talk about, and let's begin with the Sunday night game. It was a wild one in L.A. The Chargers hold off the Steelers 41-37, and Pittsburgh was down big in this one. Ben leads them back. They take the lead. Herbert gets the last touchdown to give the Chargers the win. First question for you, Dave. Did you agree with that line movement that late in the week we saw Pittsburgh or L.A. was laying 3.5, 4, jumped up to 6. I guess you didn't know Ben's status. You found out he was going to play. It looked like the Chargers were the play, and then Pittsburgh comes back, they cover. What do you think about that line movement late in the week?
We've seen it so many times now this season, Kevin, that, you know, they're playing the injury news before the injury news, or they're playing what anticipation may be of a COVID test. So, like, you know, Monday you hear Minka tested positive. He's probably not going to play. TJ Watt, questionable. Okay. Then as soon as you hear the Ben information, it's like, boom, gone. The line moves. They bet it. They laid 3.5, laid 4, probably laid 5, got up to 6, sat, touched 6.5 in a couple places and come back. I mean, the line movement is simple. It's just a matter of what those people think is going to happen. Again, it doesn't mean the books are taking a position. It's just moving the number. I mean, now looking back, I mean, down 27-10, it sure felt like the right side in that fourth quarter when it started and they were down. And then block punt changes the game. The momentum swings. They get the touchdown. They get another touchdown. Like, what just happened? And just like that, I mean, I was ready to write it off as a Steeler fan. I'm like, what are they going to make this number next week with Cincinnati? I mean, like, it's going to be higher than I thought, because I thought 3.5, 3.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then, boom, they come back. The game flies over the total, and you're left wondering, what just happened if you're holding the Chargers minus 4.5 or 5 ticket when you got a really good number and you didn't get there?
Well, and also, too, Dave, now Pittsburgh still unbeaten in the underdog role this year, ATS, which is amazing. Terrible favorite, great underdog.
Yeah. I think it's been one of those things that, like, under Tomlin, you've heard probably they play to the level of their competition. They don't put anybody away when they have that opportunity, but they're never out of a game either. So, as the favorite, they just don't cover. Sometimes they don't win, but they seem like they win and don't cover more often than not. But as a dog, it's dangerous, and it just keeps happening. So I don't know what it means going forward. I mean, do you automatically take them every time they're a dog? No, but you feel better about, I think 100% you feel better about taking them as a dog than you do as a favorite.
Now, elsewhere in the AFC, Dave, did not see this one coming. I liked Buffalo. I did not believe in Indianapolis. They had won 4 or 5 going into Sunday. And my God, what a punch in the face that was to the Bills. And Buffalo, that Jacksonville game all of a sudden doesn't look like that much of a fluke now. I mean, again, Indianapolis much better than Jacksonville, but Jonathan Taylor, 5 touchdown runs. Looks like Wentz has got this team together. That's a really good win by the Colts and a really head-scratching loss by the Bills.
Great number. This was one of those ones where I saw the number for beginning of the week. I'm like, 7's perfect. It's exactly what this has to be, because that puts the Buffalo backers kind of at ease. It's only a touchdown, 7. If we fall 7, we push. We can't lose. Tease them down. Buffalo's the teaser of choice in a lot of advantage teasers, wong teasers. I don't even know what they're calling them anymore, but I know they got them. And then you got the Colts, who, boy, a dome team. They just went outside to Buffalo in nasty weather and ran it right down Buffalo's grill nonstop. Jonathan Taylor looked like, dare I say, he's the MVP of the league? I don't know. But the Colts are live now. They're back. I mean, it was a rough start to the season, but they got good coaching. They got a quarterback who went upright and not having to be put in a position to win games and just kind of play your game. I think he's, going to do the job. So I think I found out a little more about the Colts than I did about the Bills in that game. Like, I feel like the Colts are one of these teams coming. I think they're going to, if I had to decide now between those bottom tier teams, that's the team that's going to get in the playoffs as of right now. Buffalo, man, I've been talking about it. Are they as good as everybody's advertised? I mean, they were the consensus favorite to win the Super Bowl before the game started yesterday in the AFC. There wasn't a team with lower odds. Not so much today. I think a lot of doubt has come into the minds of people, not only with Buffalo tickets to win the Super Bowl or the AFC, the division, the AFC East isn't even a shoo-in now.
Now, Dave, the trapezoid game of the day on Sunday, the Houston Texans, they go into Tennessee, and you know what? You kind of felt like this was going to be sooner or later. Tennessee, 4 underdog wins outright. Then they hold off New Orleans last week. Now you get lowly Houston, who hadn't won since week 1. Tyrod's not terrible. He's manageable. It's better than Davis Mills, but that's a really ugly performance by Tennessee. And good job by Houston there, jumping out in front, getting the outright win.
No doubt. And, we've seen this, right? You show up in one of these games, big favorite. I mean, it's a division opponent, so you can't say you're surprised. It's not like it's an out-of-conference game catches you. You get this nasty weather. Things don't go right. The other team gets a little momentum early and keeps pushing. And now you're like, wait a second, we're down here 16-0. Like, what's going on? And they just don't have enough to come back and win the game. If you had a survivor pool that was still alive, if it's still alive after this week, because everybody felt like it had Tennessee. I mean, this was the kind of the free space, big spread of the week. Team that doesn't win games on the other side, just pick Tennessee to win. Easy. And they don't. The NFL's a week-to-week league, Kevin. We see it more and more with certain games. This one is the model game for that.
And Tennessee, look, they're still going to be in that mix in the AFC, but your resume, you've lost to the Texans and Jets so far. Yeah. The Bills have lost to the Jaguars. And what's funny is when you look, Dave, at the Kansas City Chiefs, and they are now in the driver's seat of the AFC West. I'm not going to say driver's seat of the AFC. It's a little early for that. But where's Kansas City's really bad or lost to a bad team, I should say? They've lost to Tennessee, Buffalo. It's not that terrible what they've done. That Kansas City look like they've taken a lot of grief so far, but they're the ones still right now playing well.
Yeah, right. This is one of those things. We used to see it all the time in the book. Like the hangover effect is real. And it's been a couple really good years for Kansas City. So the expectations are so high. And they feel that as well. And bettors keep backing them. And now it's 4 in a row. They're getting right. They're winning games a little bit differently, though, Kev. They're playing some nasty defense. Arrowhead mystique might be back. That defense, it's coming back. If the Chiefs can win games only having to score 19 points, man, I'd look out if I was the rest of the AFC. I think their position is justified now to be the favorite again in the AFC, the favorite in the Super Bowl odds as far as representing the AFC, despite the fact that Buffalo beat him, despite the fact that Tennessee beat him. Either one of them, Kansas City's favorite over both.
Now, looking at the NFC, Dave, the Vikings beat the Packers. This was a popular contest pick too, Minnesota. I think a lot of people wanted to jump on them. And for Green Bay, I got to definitely give credit to Aaron Rodgers and what they did. That down in that game, they still came back, took the lead, down again, tied it up. He had that long touchdown at the end, but then the Vikings kicked the game-winning field goal. Green Bay's still going to win the NFC North. But for Minnesota, who's all over the place, you never know what you're going to get from them. That's still a good effort out of them to get that home win and still stay alive in the wild card.
Oh, I think Minnesota's alive in a wild card for sure. Like, I think it's 3 games they lost that they could have won. Coin flip games, I like to call them, or one-score games at the end that went the other team's way. They gave Arizona everything they could have in Arizona. But, don't forget, then they had to, barely beat somebody last – I can't remember. But they are a team I think needs to be kind of watched odds. Like if you're looking to play them to make the playoffs, yes, no, or to bet on going forward, I think you're going to be able to find spots with Minnesota that you're going to have some real value. They're a dog again this week. They're going to San Francisco, and they're dogs, short dogs. But I was impressed. They're so much better at home. That's the thing. How much the home field advantage is going away in the NFL, but there's certain teams that just play better at home. Minnesota's one of them.
The Lions, that was the game. They kicked the game-winning field goal, that long field goal.
Yes, that's it.
And they beat Carolina in overtime. That was a game that they should have won in regulation.
Yes.
And they needed the overtime. But also, a lot of people forget this, Dave, about Minnesota. They played Cincinnati in week 1. They were down 21-7 in that game, came back and tied it, had the ball in Bengal territory in overtime, and Dalvin Cook fumbled. Then the Bengals went down and kicked the game-winning field goal. And that was before we knew the Bengals were any good. But Minnesota's had, in the Arizona game too, they've had some games where you say, man, a couple go your way. Maybe you're 7-3, even 6-4, and forget about a wild card. Maybe you could win the NFC North.
Yeah, they would be in the mix for sure with Green Bay had they got a couple of those games. I don't think they can catch them now unless they win out. But they're going to win games. I think they're going to take away somebody's spot. I think they're legitimately, even with a losing record, right? There's still possibility of them making the playoffs 100%.
All right, CLV, my friend. Seattle plus 1.5. And they still end up losing because you have the thing with Kyler Murray's out, DeAndre Hopkins is out, Colt McCoy comes in. Colt McCoy looks like Kurt Warner. Like seriously, what is this? Come on. But I'll give you this, though, Dave. Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks, Rams beat them all outright as road underdogs this year. That's pretty impressive.
Not with the full staff. Like, they're not even healthy and they're doing this. It's very impressive. I don't know what to make of their defense. Like, that's the thing. Like, they're okay winning these games like this too, 23-13. The games as we get closer to the end of the season are starting to resemble what the games are going to have to be in January to get to the Super Bowl. They're ugly games. They're defensive games. Things aren't working. The elements come into play. Maybe it's windy. So how do you win these football games? Cardinals just keep doing it. What are they, 9-2 now? Straight up? I mean, that is, you can't apologize for that. You don't need to. And you can only beat the teams, put in front of you. The Cardinals keep doing it. Super impressed. Another lesson for like these games where, I mean, it's happened a couple times now. Cooper Rush being one with Minnesota, right? Minnesota is supposed to beat Dallas. Dak doesn't play. The line flips from one side, -2.5 on top, just like this game, to Minnesota -5, and they don't get there. They don't even win. Same thing happened with this one, man. Seattle, there's obviously something wrong in Seattle. Feels like the run is done for either Russ or Pete Carroll or both. But, man, trying to figure out this team is one of the many mysteries of week-to-week NFL betting.
Now, another game that had that situation on Sunday, Dave, the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson does not play. Instead, it's Tyler Huntley, the former Utah Ute. And again, the old CLV that you got it with Chicago if you jumped on them earlier in the week. And if you waited till Sunday to lay the short number with Baltimore, you end up winning that one. But I will say, good job by the Ravens, though. Without Lamar, after the Dolphins lost that they did not look very good in, again, the offense wasn't good at all against Chicago, but they did enough to win this game, and they really needed that.
Yeah. Ravens are one of those teams, man, just for being a Steeler guy and in the division and seeing all those battles all those years. Like, they're tough to just say and give credit like they're good. But again, every reason to go out of conference on the road without your guy and not find a way to win a game. And all they do is find a way to win a game. It's ugly. The line, again, it was a little high because the Ravens are just that much better than the Bears. The Bears are a mess. What are you going to put the Ravens less than a field goal with Lamar? Can't do it. So now it falls in the middle. You got a lot of people probably starting services and giving out picks that they probably middled this thing. They took the Bears plus 6.5, 4.5, all the way down, let it get under 3, come in on the Ravens, and it gets there. Not a great outcome probably for most books because at some point when the money comes in Sunday, they're getting the best number, and then it gets there. So not one of those ones I'm a fan of. And again, I think we're on reason number like 26,597 why I'm glad I'm a media guy and not a risk room book guy anymore, because that one would have me in fits going, man, how low should we have gone? Was it too high before? And now what do we do with this Ravens team?
Let's look ahead to Monday Night Football. The Giants and the Buccaneers from Tampa. And the champs, they've lost 2 straight now, falling to the Saints and Washington. They've given up a ton of points in those games. The judge and jury, he's 9-2 against the spread as a road dog. So keep an eye on that. And Saquon could come back tonight for the Giants. Do you think Tampa Bay comes back here? They've been great at home offensively. They've been bad on the road, but at least at home they played pretty well.
So hard because you got like juxtaposition of a couple different trends working, right? The Giants have been good as dogs, especially as road dogs. Tampa's covered big numbers all 3 times they've played this season. When they were a double-digit favorite, they've covered, and they've done that at home. So now we have Tom Brady in a primetime game. He's not good in primetime games because he has to stay up late. Like, you hear everything. You hear all of this crap all day, all night, all week, and then what do? I don't want the Giants in this spot. I think Tampa coming off a couple losses and a couple things happening as far as the play calling and what are we doing? Is there a struggle with him and Arians again? Are they battling back and forth? you know what? Let's line up and play. And I think Tampa, if this gets to 10, it's got to be to play. I mean, how many points are the Giants scoring tonight? That's all I need to know. That's it. If you think the Giants are getting 17 or more, you're probably live to cover the game. If they're not getting 17, if they're getting less than 17, they're not covering. Because Tampa's putting up 24 minimum. I think 31 most likely. So Tampa gets to 31. We got to get to at least 21 to cover for the Giants. I don't see it happening. I like Tampa. The total, man, Kevin, after last night, I thought I had that total nailed, the Chargers and the Steelers. And then there's a 41-point fourth quarter, and I go, man, nobody knows crap. Like, I don't know if I could swear, but nobody knows squadoosh. Nobody knows you know what. Al Michaels was even saying it on the broadcast. I don't know if you saw that tweet. He said, Chris, I've been telling you nobody knows anything. I said, wait a second. Al just said it on the broadcast. Betting the NFL's hard.
What in your mind, at least to me, I thought San Francisco was LOCK. I thought that was the play yesterday because I just didn't believe in Jacksonville covering 3 straight times. I know you're in contests and stuff. What was your, I guess now in retrospect, what was the LOCK for you of the day yesterday?
Kansas City. I just think that Kansas City was a discounted price. I had Kansas City. I insisted that the guy that we do it with, I said, we're using Kansas City. He's like, you're not worried about Dallas? I said, no, I'm not. I really liked Kansas City. But, I mean, in full disclosure, I was one to say, well, because he felt that way about San Francisco too. And I was like, no, don't use it. And then we couldn't really decide. So we used the 5th game. We used Jacksonville. So that was like a home dog, blah, 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 blah. It was completely the wrong side. San Francisco was a lock yesterday. And you can say that today, especially because it won. But, yeah, Kansas City was mine yesterday. I, at this point, as much as be on good teams, I fade bad teams. Thursday night, the bad team was Atlanta. That was like, I never, ever, not once in the history of doing these contests, have used a Thursday game because I don't know the rest of the information. I like that one game that much, and I would have used New England, but I wouldn't have been able to pick 4 other games. This week is so hard for the contest because you got 3 games on Thursday with teams that I want to bet or pay attention to, and I can't use any of them. This is one of the hardest weeks for the contest, Kevin, because of the three Thursday games.
Well, yeah, Bears-Lions. You don't know if Fields is playing, and then who's playing for the Lions? I mean, does it really matter? They actually covered back-to-back. I'll give them credit on that. First time all year. Raiders-Cowboys, quickly on Vegas. Back-to-back home losses now. They got blown out by the Chiefs. They hung with the Bengals for a little bit, but Cincinnati pulled away. What do you make of the Raiders now moving forward?
Man, I really thought that was going to be a good spot for the Raiders, too. I really thought – I just can't wrap my head around that Cincinnati's laying points on the road. So I was like, oh, yes, the Raiders are going to cover. So I watched a lot of the game, and I don't know if you saw the Twitter. I was sitting with my little one, and she was bored. I was bored. It was like, man, Cincinnati's like controlling this game and really limiting. I think people have figured out the Raiders. I don't think there's any more magic tricks for them to pull out. They cover Waller. No one else can beat you. I mean, Ruggs is not there anymore. What do you do offensively? I think they're struggling. They're going to struggle the rest of the season. I mean, there was a guy that bet that they wouldn't win another game, and you thought, come on. I mean, they might not go over their season win total now because I'm really like that's a sell and sell hard team to me, the Vegas Raiders. I think they're pretty much toast. Maybe got 1, maybe 2 more wins left outright on the rest of the schedule.
There's a big college football week, Dave.
Yes.
All right, let me ask you a question. If someone offered you $95 million, so that was on the table, you pray that Ohio State's not your next opponent because you better sign that thing before the Michigan State administration takes it and rips it up and burns it saying, nope. Not going to work, Mel. Terrible.
Good job by Mel. Good job by Mel to get that thing signed. And
I hope he got it signed. He better have.
I think he did. I mean, that was the report. But, man.
Let me ask you a question. You get a 2-day refund on that one?
Is that a 48-hour window? I don't know.
Nope.
Bring that back. We're going to rethink that. Maybe there was too many zeros in that thing. wow, did they look good? I mean, it was 49-0 at halftime. Like, there was no answer. There was nothing that Michigan State could do to stop them. C.J. Stroud basically won the Heisman in the first half. And Ohio State set the stage with the first punch for the big game. I mean, it was fantastic. And then, all week you're like, oh, is it a look ahead spot? Is that a big number? I loved Ohio State in that game. Never would have expected it to be that type of blow up, but I loved Ohio State. Now, you got the graphic. It says Penn State, Michigan State. That's the land grant trophy. That's a big game in the Big Ten lexicon. But there is only one game really in college football to discuss, and it's that Michigan-Ohio State game. Not a bad game. Good number. Number's perfect. The number is absolutely perfect on that game.
Can I just tell you something? You as a Big Ten guy, and I said this years ago doing radio, and I still stand by it. Why is it that you guys play for carnival prizes? The little brown jug, the Paul Brown axe, or the Paul Bunyan axe, and all this other stuff. Everything's a carnival prize with you guys.
It's so ridiculous. I had no idea all of this existed until Penn State went to the Big Ten. And I'm like, wait, what is a land grant trophy? I don't even know what that is. What does that even mean? And then you got to do a little research. And then the little brown jug and the axe, Paul Bunyan's axe for the other thing. Like, what is going on here? Who wins and who loses is all I want to know. I mean, yeah, it's silly. I don't know the carnival prizes. I'm going to actually have to attribute that one to you all day. I'm going to do the rest of the thing. That's the Kevin Rogers called the carnival prizes. That's what they're playing for. What do they play for with the Michigan-Ohio State game? Is there something they play for other than a bid to the playoff?
I know exactly what they play for. Jim Harbaugh's job.
Right.
Urban Meyer's not there. It doesn't matter. Like, Ryan Day is still beating you. I mean, he's a really good coach, but like Harbaugh just cannot figure out this puzzle. He can't do it
this year, Kevin? Can he do it this year? This is as good of a year as he's had, right? Like, they have the running game to keep the Ohio State, offense off the field. They have the defense to force them to make drives to beat them, not 50-yard one-play scores. If they can do that, I think they have a shot. If they can't, if they don't limit the big plays, they are going to get run out of the building again. We're all going to be left wondering, at what point do the Michigan people say, man, we have enough. We can't beat this guy. We got to get another guy. I don't know who you get to go in there. I mean, I think Michigan's done a good job. Who do you get to go in there?
Like, you're trying to find a guy. And Harbaugh, look, for as much as his personality, whatever, he still went to the Super Bowl in the NFL. He still is the face of Michigan football. Who else are you bringing in just to win this one game against a team that's totally loaded?
You can't. I think that would be an irrational decision. And there's a lot of things going on, like with schools and coaches and stuff. I mean, Florida, Mullen got fired over the weekend. There's a lot of movement. Everybody wants to have James Franklin to talk to him so he can get a raise at Penn State. I don't know where he's going to go, where he's going to get a better deal than what he got now. Like, the Penn State job is pretty good. He's a Pennsylvania guy. He can name his price. They keep bumping it up. Go win a game, man. Go beat Michigan. Go beat Ohio State. And the world is your oyster. I mean, it worked okay for Jopa. I don't understand. If he wants to go to USC, I don't understand the motivation. But, yeah, you're right. They're playing for – I don't think he's playing for his job. But, man, this would be one of those all-timers where if he gets this one, Harbaugh can do whatever he wants the rest of the way.
Florida, USC, LSU. Think about that. There's all going to be openings there.
Who goes to who goes to LSU? Like, that's the job, right? But you got to go get your butt kicked by Alabama every single year. You could get the best recruits from the Bayou part of the country, the Panhandle of Florida, bring all these kids, and you can't beat this guy. Like, it's a hard gig. You got to catch lightning in a bottle, have a great offensive coordinator, and have Joe Burrow to do it once. And a year later, Ed O's out. That's it. You're gone. Think
about this for a second. Think about two guys on that side. Jimbo Fisher, who has that huge deal. Lane Kiffin, who knows if he'll leave Ole Miss to go to Miami maybe, whenever that job opens up, when Manny Diaz gets let go. But you got quality guys on there. Jimbo is never going to go to an SEC championship.
No. Never. I mean, he got the bag. He got the gigantic bag to go to Texas A&M and, do what he's doing. But reality is like, man, I don't know. Like sometimes I think I'd rather go somewhere where I really legitimately have a shot. Maybe don't make that extra million or two, and I'm getting just resources, whatever. Like, I don't know. I mean, think about what's going on in Texas, Kevin. Texas, that's supposed to be one of the best jobs. Oh, the facilities. Oh, this. You just lost to Kansas as a huge favorite a week ago. Then you go to West Virginia, you got no shot. I mean, Sark's on the sideline going, what did I get myself into? I don't know, man. And they're going to the SEC. Like, what is happening right now? College football landscape is crazy.
You have your own cable network that reruns the Rose Bowl with Vince Young 23 hours a day.
That was a hell of a game. That was one of my all-time favorites. All-time favorites.
And by the way, two more things before I let you go. Number one, you talk about the Heisman. Bryce Young threw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he still isn't the favorite.
I know, right? Like, impossible, because he was probably, I guess, the favorite going in before that game. But, like, that game in that time slot and that quickly just vaulted it to people betting it. Now, again, the betting markets always indicate what people are betting more so than what the book thinks. The book is just reacting to the bets. You can put up a number and then you move them. I don't think it's such a shoo-in, but he's a gigantic. I mean, it's a big favorite. He's like 3-1 in a lot of places, minus $2.80 to $3, and there's still a plus price on Young. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. This thing is decided every year in the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially in a year where there's not a dominant guy at the top. I mean, what if the running back for Michigan State runs for 300 yards? These other two have bad games. Somebody loses. Is he an outside shot? I mean, it's worth maybe a token play, a pizza money play or something. But, yeah, the Heisman market's insane.
Finally, big week of college basketball. So many tournaments. How do you stay on top of that when you were making odds on these games, neutral site games? Like, how do you even stay on top of all these tournaments?
It's the worst. It's really one of the hardest weeks, 2 weeks of the year, is because it's holiday week, right? Like, you're trying to have time with your family. You're trying to get the schedule organized with, like, they throw these 3 games at you on Thursday. It used to be 2 games, Detroit at home, Dallas at home, and the Egg Bowl. And then the NFL said, you know what? There's a lot of people watching that Egg Bowl. Maybe we should throw in a night game there. So you throw in a night game there. Then, you got at least the NBA and NHL kind of take a modified schedule on the holiday. But you have all of this basketball starting at all times of the day, all times of the night. And it's one of the hardest weeks. The good thing is that the volume is down because a lot of people are traveling. A lot of people are going home to spend time with their families. And you don't get picked off nearly as much. But I can tell you this, not anything that you really see, although Gonzaga's playing UCLA. That's going to be a good basketball game, matchup 1 and 2. We're going to watch that. We're going to pay attention to that. I'm trying to get somebody to get in a car with me and go to Poly Pavilion and watch it in person. But try to manage it. And, like, this is one of those things I tell people all the time. You don't have to bet a game just because it's on. And you can tell people that they're blue in the face that, and they still want to play it because they got action. And then afterward, they're going, yeah, I should have bet that. I didn't really know anything about that game, or, there's a big matchup today. Cornell's playing Penn State. Penn State minus 15.5 against an Ivy League school, Kevin? Come on, that's crazy.
I mean, you got these, Texas A&M Corpus Christi against Texas A&M Commerce State and all this. I know a lot about this school.
Yeah.
Corpus Christi, I mean, they're returning 3 guys.
At least you know where Corpus Christi is at because it's in the name. You see some of these names, Tarleton State. Where's it at? Like, that's where people used to come to the counter.
You know what Tarleton State is, right?
Tarleton State, I don't. Who?
Billy Gillespie.
Is the coach at Tarleton State?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
How the mighty have fallen?
Wasn't he the coach at Kentucky?
He was the coach of Kentucky and at Texas A&M. He was at A&M. and at Kentucky, and he's at Tarleton State now, Stephenville, Texas.
Man, oh man, like, yow! I mean, that's how the mighty have fallen. But hey, good for him. He's in the game, back in the game. They're catching a lot of points today. against North Dakota State. Might be a play
World
today.
record books out when those teams get together.
That's a bar burner right there.
Dave Sharapan, you can find him on Twitter, Sportsbook Consigliere, SportsBK, He joins us every Monday on the Daily Insider. Dave, have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks again for the time, and good luck with the carnival gift you win this week against Michigan State.
I'm actually worried. I don't think they're going to win. I think Michigan State's going to win. That's an early lean right now. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the family as well. Tell Chris I said hello, and I promise I'm getting that paperwork done this week. I promise.
All right. Sounds good. Dave, we'll talk to you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving. See
you. You too. Thank you. There's Dave Sharapan, and always enjoy talking to Dave. And, yeah, the college basketball this week with all the tournaments. I want to just list this really fast for you. I don't mind. You have the Jacksonville Classic, the Gulf Coast Showcase, the Nassau Championship, the Naples Invitational, Paradise Jam, Maui Invitational out in Vegas, not in Hawaii, the Social Challenge, the Jacksonville Classic, the Fort Myers Classic, the Legends Classic at Prudential Center in Newark, Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. All of that happening today, all of those tournaments. So you can buckle up, and there's normal games too. So not just those tournaments. You have other things going on as well. But games start as early as 11 a.m. So there's basketball all throughout the day, the night. There's late night games, 11:30 tonight, St. Mary's and Notre Dame out in Vegas. You had last night, Arizona beat Michigan. So Michigan's lost a few, 2 of their last 3. But, man, just a lot going on. Now, I want to tell you about WynnBET. You can download the WynnBET mobile sportsbook app on iOS or Android devices. When you download the WynnBET mobile sportsbook and you're a new patron, you get a $1,000 risk-free first bet with a $20 minimum first deposit and eligible sports bet when you use the promo code VIBonus. That means if you lose your first wager, you get it back up to $1,000 as a free bet credit that you can use for another bet. The WynnBET promo code will expire soon, so make sure to grab it while you can. Must be 21 years or older to bet, and also in legal betting states. That is WynnBET. All right, I want to tell you a little bit about the NBA for tonight. And we hit on the NFL, or we hit on the Giants-Bucks game. But NBA, there are 10 games on the slate tonight. Run through them very quickly. Nets and Cavaliers, they meet in Cleveland. Brooklyn's laying 6. And the Nets at 12-5. It feels like a very quiet 12-5 for the Nets, and Cleveland at 9-8. And the Cavs had that strong ATS start. We'll see what they do here as a home dog, but they're all beat up. That's their biggest issue. Charlotte is at Washington, and the Hornets have played a little better of late. They did lose to Atlanta over the weekend, and Washington's still at 11-5. They had that comeback win over Miami also over the weekend. Oklahoma City is at Atlanta, and the Hawks are laying 11.5. I'll give the Thunder credit, 6-10. I feel like they've been a covering machine of late. They covered at Boston. They covered at Milwaukee, and they continue to fight. And Atlanta's been really good at home, 8-9, but excellent at home so far of the year. Houston and Boston, they played in the finals a few times in the 80s, but this is not going to be a finals matchup. Houston's 1-15. Houston won their second game of the year. It was 13 straight losses for them. They did hang with the Knicks on Saturday. Boston's laying 11.5. Second meeting between these two teams. Boston beat them in Houston earlier in the year. Indiana's at Chicago. Bills held off the Knicks last night at the United Center. So now back-to-back for Billy Donovan's team. Indiana, they've struggled on the road, but that number's dropping a bit. It's at 2.5, 3. Orlando's at Milwaukee. Second time these teams are playing in a few days. And the Magic, I'll give them that, like Oklahoma City. They're going to hang. They're going to be competitive. And Milwaukee just a shade above 500. Minnesota is at New Orleans. The Timberwolves laying 3.5. They've won 3 in a row. They were very good at home. They dominated Memphis a few nights ago. They shot lights out. Anthony Edwards was on fire in that game for Minnesota. But the Timberwolves have had a couple of offensive struggles against New Orleans. They played them on a 2-game series at Target Center, and they split them with the Pelicans. So we'll see what Minnesota does here on the road. Phoenix is at San Antonio. Suns are laying 5.5 to the Spurs. Pop's team just bad, 4-11. Phoenix continues to be on fire. They're 13-3. Memphis is at Utah, and that's a playoff rematch from last year. in which the Grizzlies won the opener, and that was without Donovan Mitchell on Utah. And then the Jazz ended up beating a lot of high-scoring games there. Utah's laying 10. We'll see what Memphis can do after Minnesota just destroyed them the other night. Philadelphia's at Sacramento, and the 76ers continue their road trip. They lost to Portland a few nights ago. The Kings fired Luke Walton yesterday, 6-11 for them, off back-to-back home losses to the Raptors and Jazz. The Kings laying 2.5 there against Philadelphia, and a handful of NHL games tonight. The showcase game, I guess you could say, Vegas is at St. Louis. Golden Knights have played well, considering all their injuries, and St. Louis trying to kind of get back on track. They've struggled a bit of late. They're 9-6-1 so far in the season. Anaheim, a dog at Nashville. Anaheim's been playing really well of late. They're 10-5-2. So that's a look around the NHL. And before we get out of here, BetMGM, you know who they are. They're the king of sports books. Bet $10 to win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. For new players only, bet on any NFL money line, and if your team scores a touchdown, you'll receive an additional $200 in free bets. Again, new players only, must be 21 years or older to play, and eligible in the following states: Arizona, New Jersey, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. only. Full terms and conditions apply. That's BetMGM. They are the king of sportsbooks. All right. We're done for the week here on the Daily Insider. I'll be out of town for the next few days for Thanksgiving, but I'll be back next Monday. We'll have the Bet and Collect podcast to review Week 11. You'll hear from Dave Sharapan, who we just talked to. You'll hear it in audio form, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can just listen to it. The Bet and Collect podcast you can find on Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio, Apple Play, Google Play, Spreaker, and just find that the Bet and Collect podcast. And we'll have some best bet videos this week for you for the Thursday night game between the Bills and Saints, Sunday night Ravens-Browns, Monday Seahawks and the football team, and also our SEC best bet video with Brian Edwards. We'll have that this week as well, so keep an eye on that. So the Daily Insider will return next Monday at noon Eastern, and we'll be back for the stretch run of 2021. And my thanks to Dave Sharapan for joining me today, as he does every Monday. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching today's edition of the Daily Insider. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And as always, best of luck with your bets.